Hello, YouTube community, and welcome back to my channel, RobScure Music. Today, I would like to speak to you about an album by Doug Sahm And Band. Before I get into the album, I'd like to give you a little background into Doug Sahm, which will not only, I think, be interesting, but it sort of puts this album into context. Doug was born in San Antonio, Texas in 1941. San Antonio, of course, being the site of the Alamo, where roughly 100 years before he was born, there was an infamous battle at the Alamo, and this was part of the Texan Revolution for independence from Mexico. And I think we all know the story of the Alamo. I won't get into that here. But when Doug was born, he was born with music in his blood. At age 5, he was actually singing on a local radio station. And at age 8, he had already learned to play the fiddle, the mandolin, and the steel guitar. By age 11, he was playing on stage with Hank Williams Sr. And at age 13, Doug was invited to join the Grand Ole Opry permanently. His family wanted him to continue his education, so he declined. Then, as a teenager and young adult in the late 50s, early 60s, Doug formed a couple different bands. None of them really made it too big. One group was called the Dells, the Dell Kings, not to be confused with the Dell Vikings. That's a very different group that had a hit with the song "Come Go With Me." But anyway, so he had formed these bands, played around a little bit, but nothing much was happening. Then, at the end of 1963, on November 22nd, 1963, of course, President John F. Kennedy was assassinated, and the U.S. was sort of leaving 63 and entering 64 in a sort of somber state. And from a musical standpoint, something incredibly big happens in 1964, and I think we all know what that is. We get introduced to John, Paul, George, and Ringo, and Beatlemania sweeps the nation. And of course, right behind them, all sorts of other British invasion bands come into the States. And Doug and his manager decide that it's time for a new band. And they form a band and they think, you know what, let's get on the bandwagon and let's give them a British sounding name. So they come up with a band called the Sir Douglas Quintet. And in 1965, Doug writes what would be that band's biggest hit, a song called "She's About a Mover." And this song is like a perfect blend of rhythm and blues, British, invasion pop, and country. And to me, it sounds like Doug sat down and said, how can I write a song that has all of the best elements of the Beatles song, "She's a Woman," the Ray Charles song, "What I Say," and maybe let's throw in the Beach Boys doing the song "Long Tall Texan." It's just a masterful blend of the three of them, in my opinion. And it almost seems like it was written exclusively for Ringo Starr. As many of you know, Ringo has that sort of country influence, or that he does country well. Let's put it that way. And in fact, Ringo did cover the song on his 1983 album called Old Wave. Ringo does a very good cover of the song. I really like that a lot. The album, Old Wave, not so much. It was, 1983, and maybe Ringo should have done New Wave. Actually, no, I take that back. I think Ringo doing New Wave might have been a worse album than Old Wave. In any event, getting back to Doug. So he decides, now he's got some this hit under his belt, and he's got some momentum, and things are starting to happen. I guess he feels like, Texas is not necessarily the hopping spot in the mid '60s. So he hears a little voice in his head, "Go west, young man." So he does, and he goes to San Francisco. And I think a lot of us know what was happening in San Francisco in the mid '60s. Obviously, a musical hotspot, and I'm sure he had a great time there. And the band would go on to have a couple more hit songs. One in 1966, I believe it is, called "The Rains Came," and Mendocina, which I think was another big hit for them in like 1968, I believe. However, the band would break up in 1972, and Doug decides that he's going to move back to Texas. So he moves to Austin, where there's a new sort of cosmic country scene emerging. And you've got people like Jimmy Jeff Walker is there. He had a hit a couple years before that. He wrote the song Mr. Bojangles. And there's another gentleman who just recently moved to Austin. He had gotten tired, I guess, of the Nashville scene, and he moved to Austin. And that's a man by the name of Willie Nelson. So Willie and Doug both get signed to Atlantic Records around this time. Willie goes on to produce his album Shotgun Willie, and I think after that was Phases and Stages. He gets involved in the whole outlaw country scene with Waylon Jennings, and the rest is history. Getting back to Doug, he at this point has had some exposure to the whole California scene. He's got his rock influences, he's got his pop, he's got some Mexican influences, and he's played with a number of different musicians and met a number of different musicians along the way. So he gets his friends together, and he produces his album called simply Doug Sahm And Band. And the sort of cartoon images on here are people in his band. And we've got, in addition to Doug, Bob Dylan, Dr. John, David Fathead Newman, who is a saxophone player who actually played with Ray Charles. You've got Flaco Jiminez, who plays accordion, very popular Mexican type sound artist. Got a number of other individuals here who would be part of his permanent band, or at least just play on this album. And I think you can obviously gather from my talk of country, Mexico, pop, rock. This is an album that is basically all of that combined. It's folk, it's rock, it's pop, it's Spanish Mexican influences, it's a bit jazzy. I mean, it has it all in here pretty much. And it was a great introduction for a lot of people to Doug Sahm and his music. So I'll show you the back cover. You can see these individuals without the cartoon images. Here's a track listing. I'll tell you what, let me do side one. Side two. And the first song on here is Anybody Going to San Antone. This is a cover that Doug does, and it was actually a hit for Charlie Pride in 1970, I believe it was. And Doug doesn't do quite as well with his version of the song. I don't even think it charts too well. This album, in fact, only charted at like number 125, I believe. But you know, it's a good song. You know, nothing wrong with this. As a matter of fact, what's interesting about the song is it has, number one, twin fiddles of both Doug and Ken Kosek. It has Charlie Owens on steel guitar and Bob Dylan doing harmony vocals. What's not to love about that, right? The second song on the album is called It's Gonna Be Easy, and this is a song that actually appeared in the 2011 Will Ferrell movie called Everything Must Go. Again, very, very good song. The third song, called Your Friends, is a nice song. It's got a great horn section. You've got not only Doug on lead guitar, but you've got Fathead playing his tenor sax. You've got Willie Bridges on baritone sax and Wayne Jackson on trumpet. Fun song. Next song, Poison Love. This is a great song, and this is. I'll show you the song listings again, and you can see on here the artists that are playing on that song. And it's pretty much got mandolin, dobro, an accordion, piano. I mean, fun elements. And in case you don't know what a dobro is, it's essentially a wooden acoustic guitar that has a metal resonator built into it to serve as an amplifier, and it gives a very distinct sound to the guitar. And it's really a fun song, a true sort of Texan hoedown or something, you know. Next song after that is called Wallflower. This is a song written by Bob Dylan, and it's a song that would not appear on a Dylan album for another like 20 years after this. It's I think it shows up on his bootleg series, the first volume, I believe. And the song actually includes Bob on lead guitar and on vocals. And Dr. John is playing organ on the song. So, again, great. Next one is called Dealer's Blues. This is, again, it's got, the sax and horns and everything. And it's really a song that sings sort of the, his story, if you will, of traveling to Mexico, spending a year in Mexico, enjoying some mushrooms and jalapenos, and pretty much says, got to have a lot of cocaine to have a lot of rhythm and blues. So, like I said, he probably had a lot of fun in San Francisco. And that pretty much ends side one. Then we get into side two, and I don't want to go into all of these songs because I think it's making for too long of a video. I tend to go on a little bit. But some notable songs on side 2 are Blues Stay Away From Me and Me and Paul. Both of these include Bob Dylan again, both of these songs. And there's a song in between them called Papa Ain't Salty. What a fun song this is. This is a funky sort of jazzy blues number, and Fathead Newman does a great solo on this. It's got nice piano work as well by Augie Meyers, and just a song that is really enjoyable, and good time is had by all. And the last song on here is called I Get Off, and this is another fun, sort of toe tapping song. And it says here that it was inspired by Wayne Jackson and Friends. And I don't know what that means, honestly, but again, trumpets, organs, tenor sax, a lot of fun. So all in all, fantastic album. If you enjoy that sort of jazzy blues, country, tejano, sort of Mexican music, I recommend listening to Doug Sahm And Band. So with this video, I am going to try something new, and I've got a short, maybe less than a minute clip of some of the music that's included on this album, just so that you can get a feel for the type of music that's being played. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you on the other side.
Here I am walking down 66. She hadn't done me this way, and I know that I am guilty of the shame. Flaco, I've got to feel the blue. It's a game that you just can't lose. I'm falling in love. Come home, little girl. Papa ain't salty no more. Give me some hearts. Say you wanna come up. You'll never get around.
So that's it for today, in terms of Doug Sahm anyway. I do want to give a little update to one of my earlier videos where I discussed the group Batdorf and Rodney. And in that video, I covered their first 2 albums. They only had 4 in total. They had 3 in the 70s and 1 that they did in 2008. And I mentioned that I did not have their 3rd album. Well, since that video, lo and behold, I came across their 3rd album. And this is Life Is You. And this is sort of when they were involved with Clive Davis. And the production on here is, much more commercial than perhaps their first 2 albums. I'm happy to have this. And it was in the dollar bin. So, hey, Doc, got a bargain. So thanks for watching the video. Stay well. And remember, if the music strikes a chord, let it play.